Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben's award-winning podcast, as voted by Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and listeners. So if you're new to the podcast, make sure you click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts, listen back to all our previous episodes, sit back, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's episode. Hello everyone and welcome to your Sunday episode of Gardening with Ben. If you didn't see yesterday's episode, make sure you go and listen to it as it was uploaded later in the day. So make sure you go back and listen to Saturday's episode, which is 102, episode number 102. So we are now on the 31st of October. That's another month gone. And yes, my birthday has passed, that's gone, so now it's Halloween today. I'm not somebody that does celebrate Halloween, but I do like to see all the pumpkins and people getting dressed up, so I am into all the horror films and stuff like that, so I'm just not a Halloween sort of person, but I do like to watch all the horror films that do come on around Halloween time. So if you're having a Halloween party, I hope you have a good night, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Now, has anybody grown pumpkins for Halloween this year? I managed to get just one pumpkin from my plants this year. I was surprised at that, to be honest, because I wasn't down at the plot a lot this year, so I was surprised to get one pumpkin. But it was a good sized pumpkin. It weren't massive, but it was a decent sized one. So I hope if you were growing pumpkins that you managed to get some real big ones, and it's always good to see the size of the pumpkins that people can actually grow them to. Now they do take a lot of work, they take a lot of water and obviously plant food, but yeah, there is a lot to do. So in this episode it's going to be a roundup of what we have got up to in October. So October seems to have flown past so much, and I really don't think that I've achieved much on the plot, to be honest, but I'm quite happy with what I have achieved, as what I have been doing this month is I've sorted out all the front of my allotment in my main flower bed, which is like on the road, it's before you go onto my allotment. I've sorted all that out, I've managed to trim all the shrubs back, and they look completely bare now because I've trimmed them back that much, they've got no leaves on them. But hopefully the frost won't kill them off, and hopefully they will get some new growth next year. I've planted absolutely loads of tulips in that bed, and I've got some daffodils to plant as well. Hopefully I'll have done them today. I am pre-recording this episode on Saturday, so hopefully I'll have done them today. We will see. If the rain holds off, we will manage to get them into them beds and get them all planted. So I've done all that. I've made a massive start on clearing my shed out, as I talked about in my last episode, and another thing that I've done is I've potted up all my geraniums. Now if you grow geraniums and you want them to survive over the winter, it's best off to move them inside in the greenhouse or the ponnet tunnel, somewhere to keep them warm, or even in the house if you want to grow them in the house. But yep, it's good to move them indoors in the warmth, and then they'll grow again next year and get flowers on them, and fingers crossed they'll be bigger and better as well, because they'll have got all last year's growth in them already, so you could get some good sized geranium plants from last year's. I grew all mine from seed this year and they did fantastic. I can't believe how well they actually grew, and I'll certainly be growing a lot more this year, well next year now. I only grew about 12 plants this year and they all did really well. They're not as hard to grow as you think they would do from seed, so if you're wanting to try growing some flowers, definitely try growing geraniums, because the results that I had from mine, I can't believe it. This is the second time I've grown them now and I've had success both times, so I'm going to be growing probably a lot more next year to grow down all the beds down the side of my plot, as well as in the front of the allotment, because geraniums add lots of colour and they keep bringing back them flowers all the time, and all you have to do is just keep nipping them heads off as the flowers die off, and more flowers will grow. So it's an easy flower to grow. So all I did was just plant them around April time, the seeds, and they flowered. Sometimes you think, oh, they'll need like a year to start growing, but no, they flowered this year and they did brilliant. So if you're wanting to try something, get some geranium seeds, and trust me, it's so easy to grow. Let me know if you've grown some from seed as well. It's always good to see what other people are doing. So we've got all that done. I've also been sorting out all my strawberry plants. Now is the time to be getting them sorted. If you've not sorted your strawberry plants out, sort them out now before the ground does get too hard. Get separating them, get trimming them down, get potting up all them runners what have been spread from all the plants what I've sent out. If you don't want them extra plants, give them to a neighbour, give them to another allotment holder. They will love you for it. Last year I gave my neighbour on the allotment 12 plants, I think it were, and I was talking to him the other day down on his plot, and he said to me he's potted up 100 runners from just my plants that I gave him. So I'm really pleased for that, because it saves him having to go out and buy strawberry plants, and we both know that the strawberries on them plants are absolutely delicious. That's why he wanted some, because he knew how delicious my strawberries were. He wanted to grow some himself, and so I gave him some of my plants, and yeah, he's going to look forward to all them strawberries next year. And he's got a couple of little kids that love to eat all the fruit as well, so they'll certainly be benefiting from all them next year. So I've got all that done. My next main job on the plot, which I may have got done today, I don't know, is it all depends down on the weather, as it is forecast for rain in Sheffield today, so hopefully we will get some work done outside. If not, I'll be stuck in that shed again. But like I say, there's always work to be done. So I'm going to be hopefully sorting out all my raspberry canes. I've not sorted them out yet. I need to get them sorted before it gets too cold and too frosty and snowy. Yes, there may be snow on the way. So I need to sort out all my raspberry canes, and I tend mainly to grow the autumn variety of raspberries, which is an easier thing to grow, because you know you can just prune back every single stem to the ground. You don't have to find which ones fruited last year and trim off them ones and leave the new growth for the next year, which you have to do with the summer varieties. You can just prune them all to the ground and just let them grow again from scratch next year. So we've got all that to do, which shouldn't be a big job, to be honest. It shouldn't be a big job at all, but you have to obviously watch out for all the spikes on the autumn raspberries, because there's spikes on the canes and stuff like that. And hopefully we'll get them all trimmed back, and I may be able to use the whips for something else, for some frames and stuff to make it look nice. I'm always on the lookout to recycling stuff what I've grown. It's a bit like when you're growing your sunflowers and they create the massive stalks. It's good to use them. You can use them as canes, you can use them as supports. When they dry out pretty hard as well, so you can always make use of stuff what you are cutting down. You don't have to burn it or compost everything. You can make use of everything around you. So I've got all that to do. So looking into November, what am I going to be doing next? So I want to start looking into feeding the birds more, as I have got a couple of bird feeders on the plot, but I've not been using them, and I should really use them. And obviously if you encourage the birds onto your allotment, they will eat all the slugs. So a bit like how I've been encouraging all the bees onto the plot to help pollinate and to create lots of fruit and from the flowers that I grow. Last year's fruit harvest was absolutely phenomenal. From all the bees on the plot, I got loads and loads of fruit. So encouraging the bees onto the plot will create more fruit. So I want to encourage the birds onto the plot more, so that they eat all the slugs. because obviously the slugs will eat the vegetables. So that's my next main step for November, trying to look at ways of encouraging the birds onto the plot and looking up different sorts of bird feed and what bird feed I should use for getting different varieties of birds onto the plot. So if you know much about bird feed, please do send me a message and let me know which bird feed you use and what sort of seeds you put out in your bird feeders to encourage onto your plot, because I would like to know, as I'm not up on bird seed and bird feed, and it's something that I do like to learn. So once I have read up on it, I will obviously feed back to you all and give you advice as well, because that's one thing that I always do with this blog, is that the more I read up, the more I pass back to you people, you listeners obviously, and I love to share what I have learned, and I'm forever researching, as like I always say, gardening is something that you're always learning about. It's forever changing and there's new ways, new tips and new methods, so I do love sharing it all with you. So we've got the birds to look after. That's going to be starting from next month, and also the next jobs will be obviously carrying on with my shed, because that's going to be a whole winter job. I'm going to be doing that all winter, throughout the whole winter. It's going to look fantastic in springtime, trust me, hold me to that. The other jobs I obviously need to do is start clearing all my beds down on the plot and getting them all weeded and weed free, because if you get them weed free now, you won't have to do it until springtime, because the weeds won't grow through the winter as bad. They'll still grow a bit, but because there's not much daylight or sunlight, you won't get many weeds growing, and if you get on top of it now, it saves you having to do it later on. So it's good time to get it all done while the ground is soft and while the ground is wet from all the rain obviously. So get out as many weeds as you can now and get it all clear. So it's going to be a busy November down at the allotment. Hopefully I get lots of jobs done, and I don't think there's much else I need to be doing on the plot apart from them, to be honest, as there's nothing major that I need to think about. I am looking into getting more fruit bushes on the plot. That is another thing that I need to look into. So if you've got any good varieties or good types of fruit, please do let me know on that, because I am wanting more fruit on the plot, and obviously they'll encourage the birds on as well, because birds will love the fruit. They certainly love my raspberries, what I grow. I let them have some, but I try and pick as many as I can. So the more fruit that can grow, the better. And obviously I would love a pond on my plot. I may look into doing that, as obviously getting the frogs on the plot will also help stop the slugs, because the frogs will go around eating them all for you. So that might be another mission. So I may be looking into doing the frogs, the birds, and obviously tidying up the plot for next year. So that has been my October roundup and what I plan to hopefully get done in November. Make sure you do stay up to date with these blogs, because I'll obviously be telling you how well I get on with these jobs and whether I get them all done or not. And obviously I'll be looking at getting stuff painted and making it look nice again, ready for next year, because I do like to paint all my beds just to give it, to try and stop them rotting as fast, to be honest, and also they do look nicer once they're painted up rather than the rotting dark wood that they become. So hopefully we'll get as much done as possible, but it's all weather dependent at the end of the day. Obviously the nastier the weather, the less I'll get to do outside, because I don't like being outside in the rain. I don't want to get wet down on the allotment. It's something that I really don't want to do. So the more that I can get done when it is dry, the better really. And I will keep you all progressed on all this throughout November, so make sure you do click that subscribe button if you are a new listener, and you will get notified when new podcasts come up. Usually they appear at 6 o'clock in the morning if I've managed to record it in time, so hopefully you'll get these on a daily basis, which I've been recording them on a daily basis. I can't believe I managed to keep up. We're doing them on a daily basis now, but thank you to everybody that does listen. Thank you for those that do share my podcasts on your Instagram stories, getting more reach out there, because I do want to reach more people with my podcast and let people listen to what I'm doing. So thank you for those that do share it. And as always, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben. So thank you for listening to today's episode of Gardening with Ben. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Remember to do click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts. Feel free to share them on your Instagram stories so that it spreads the word about my podcast and we get lots more listeners. Feel free to check out my social media sites, Facebook and Instagram as well, Gardening with Ben, and also my YouTube channel, to stay up to date with all my handy videos, how-to videos, and sharing my tips and advice. And feel free to check the link as well in the description for my Gardening with Ben t-shirts. Lots of funny gardening design t-shirts in there for you to purchase at great prices too. So thanks again, and as always, remember, keep smiling and keep gardening.